like along the same lines of being the protector in the family, being the provider for the family, uh, put you in the correct place. I think about all these gadgets that we have, phones, tablets, cool Teslas, and they were designed in a specific way. And one thing breaks, and like now your life's miserable
Right. Mm-hmm.
because your car doesn't work or your phone doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Men are pretty much the same thing. Like when we aren't fulfilling the roles God has for us, then man, we get depressed, we go crazy, we get angry, uh, just because we're not in the correct spot, not in the correct position. And does that mean that uh, the man rules the roost? Everything that he says goes. It doesn't mean that, because yes, if the man's the head of the household, he's always accountable to the wife and the children.
Yeah.
You know, and I do believe that it's healthy for a man to figure out how to provide. And in fact, for the loser men that women complain about, I don't think they had a male figure in their life that
Mm-hmm.
taught them that. Maybe they just grew up with their mom and their mom was trying their best. I'm not saying, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
throwing shade on single moms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying it's incomplete. A
Mm-hmm.
single mom can't be a dad and a mom at the same time. And, that's why we have the church, though. The church
Mm-hmm.
is supposed to be the backstop when something like that happens where there's no dad. There's a lot of spiritual dads in the church,
Yeah.
but it doesn't replace a dad in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a dad's providing, when a dad's protecting, the not only the wife but the children feel secure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things our boys, they love is they go, Dad, what if a robber comes in the house? And I go over them with them what we should do. And Kairos, our eldest boy, who's 11, he instinctively knew when I asked him about it. He says, Dad, if you're not there, not at home, it's just me and mommy and the kids,
Mm-hmm.
I think I should step up to the plate. And I said, yes, that's true. And
Mm-hmm.
I thinking about it, he's still young, and I'm like, no, I don't want that to happen. But I had to say
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
because one day he'll be 15, 16, and he'll be taller than me and stronger.
Probably.
But I would still, he's young, so I wouldn't like put him in the front.
Of course.
But if I'm not there,
Yeah.
men will feel like they are in the exact place they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the lost art. Those two things that I just talked about in the beginning, the being the provider and the protector, is a lost art.
Mm.
You see in the news, excuse me, a lot of guys are now predators, or they're
Yeah.
abusers.
Yeah.
They're absentee fathers, things like that. Totally opposite of how God created us to be. And so I think there needs to be a revival in teaching men from the very beginning, not waiting till they're teenagers or young adults, but at the beginning, when they're learning how to talk, you know, if we start at that spot, then I think the future is a lot brighter, because what comes along with that is what women want. Women
Mm-hmm.
want to be loved and respected at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be cherished. They want to feel secure. And a man that knows how to do those two things provides security and love.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really do believe that we need to start young. We need to start as soon as possible with the young boys.
What do you mean by starting young? Like, what things do you tell them or communicate to them when they're little?
Well, I talked about being the protector thing. I think that's a natural thing that they do.
Mm-hmm.
When they're during their playtime,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about swords and guns and wrestling and
Mm-hmm.
doing all sorts of adventures and things like that, fighting the bad guy. So that's intuitive. That's built in. The provider thing, I think it's intuitive as well. It's just it needs to be brought out. That's why I like teaching our kids entrepreneurship.
Mm.
We talked in a previous podcast about them selling lemonade and baked goods at church
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So right now we're at the point where they can buy their camping tent or buy some gadget they want. But soon I'm going to kind of direct that into a different place to where they can contribute somehow to the house, somehow to the family. And I want it to be fun. I want to make sure I praise them when they do it so that they can see the big picture. And I think that's going to click so well.
I think that goes right along with the fact that I mean, boys and girls both need purpose in life, but I think boys just I think what you're doing is you're giving them purpose, and it goes hand in hand with what we talked about before when we want them to find their purpose in the Lord and their calling in life.
Yes.
And to use that to not just thinking of themselves, but to think of providing for a family or, contributing to the world, to society, and using their gifts to and doing hard things.
Yeah.
And being challenging themselves and working hard to be contributors and leaders.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things to teach your kids as a father, not just boys, but girls too. Do hard things. Because doing hard things makes you take responsibility. It makes you understand what you do affects others. It makes you understand what you do affects yourself. And what affects yourself, again, affects other people. And that's one of the best ways to keep children from becoming criminals, because criminals, they're the totally opposite. They think about themselves. Yeah. They don't think about others. Yeah. So if you have something they want, they're there to steal it. If you hurt their ego, now they're going to hurt your face, that's what criminals do. And a real man, a characteristic of a real man, a biblical man, is he has, the healthy kind of pride in his God, his family, and his accomplishments. But he doesn't have that ego that is so easily bruised. I see that so much nowadays when I see someone so quick to fight over getting bumped at a Dodger game or, your foot gets stepped on in the movie theater and people are quick to fight. And I'm like, that's not a man. That's my 2-year-old,
Yeah. Yeah.
These guys are like toddlers in adults' bodies, and that becomes dangerous. A biblical man will defend himself, but not because his ego was bruised, only if there's a clear and present danger. When I see the people with weak, and sensitive egos, I see that they didn't have a father figure in the house. I don't see them having a mentor. And so, these characteristics actually build a better society.
Yeah.
I look at kind of like the politics of the day, and, people will argue, well, Donald Trump has an ego, and I guess he does. I mean, being a billionaire, to get there, you have to have some sort of ego.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, he's far less worse than a lot of these politicians who, man, they use political power to go after people who disagree with them online.
Like they're manipulative and kind of underhanded.
Yes.
I agree.
I would have to mention our governor here in California, Gavin Newsom. He's a good-looking guy, smiles well, he speaks well, but you can tell he's not telling the truth. He's manipulative. The devil is much the same way. He entices you with all these pleasures and good things in your mind. But he's doing it with a kind face, with a charming demeanor, to get you to destroy yourself. And so a lot of guys fall into that trap. They're destroying themselves, destroying their wives, destroying their families, because of ego. And that needs to be stomped out. A true man will take the headship, the leadership of the family, without a bruised ego, without a sensitive ego.
I like one of my favorite teaching about leadership mentioned from one of our old mentors, and how leadership is, you think of it as a pyramid, and the leader's at the top, and then everyone kind of is just like lower, and all the little people, but it's actually inverted.
Yes.
And a true leader is actually at the bottom of everything.
Yes, that's true.
And holds the burden and the weight of everything.
Yes.
And holds everyone above himself.
And that's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
He was a true man. You know, the Vice article made fun of us because one of our members said Christ was a true man. He had real cojones. And he does have cojones, man. Like, only he could do what he did. But yes, it's the man's job is to serve the wife and the kids. Jesus said, I did not come to be served, but to serve. And that servant leadership model is what every man who wants to be biblical has to strive for, has to attempt to achieve. I'm not saying we could do it perfectly. I'm just saying that's the goal. That's the goal for every man who loves Jesus, is to be like Jesus. So if Jesus had a family, how would he run it? If Jesus had kids, how would he run it? If Jesus had a wife, and I'm not saying he did, I'm not a heretic. If Jesus had a wife, how would he treat his wife?